The film opens with a sweeping view of the dense Panamanian jungle, where Sergeant Major Thomas Beckett, a seasoned Marine Scout sniper, and his spotter, Corporal Papich, are deep in the heart of a high-stakes mission. Their objective: to eliminate a rebel leader who has been causing chaos in the region. With precision and stealth, Beckett takes the shot, successfully executing the target as planned. The two soldiers then retreat to an isolated part of the forest, where they await their scheduled evacuation helicopter, expected to arrive under the cover of night. However, their relief is short-lived when the helicopter arrives early, in broad daylight, sparking unease in Beckett. His instincts scream that something is wrong. Beckett's fears are tragically confirmed. As Papich moves to cover Beckett while they approach the helicopter, a mysterious sniper hidden in the distance fires a single shot from a SVD Dragunov rifle. The bullet strikes Papich with deadly accuracy, killing him instantly. Chaos erupts as Beckett, realizing his comrade has fallen, sprints back through a hail of bullets to retrieve Papich's lifeless body. With grit and determination, he drags Papich to the helicopter, his heart heavy with grief and rage. Once aboard, Beckett confronts the extraction team, blaming their premature arrival for the tragic death of his spotter. In the aftermath, Beckett is consumed by remorse. The memory of Papich's death haunts him, as do the memories of all the spotters he has lost in the line of duty. Each day becomes a battle against his own guilt and the lingering shadows of those who once fought by his side. Meanwhile, in the offices of the U.S. National Security Council, a highly trained agent named Richard Miller is handed a top-secret assignment. Miller, an Olympic medalist and a skilled SWAT sniper, is tasked with thwarting a coup attempt planned to disrupt the upcoming elections in Panama. Miller's primary targets are General Miguel Alvarez, a military leader with ambitions of seizing power, and Raul Ochoa, a notorious drug lord who is financing the coup in exchange for unrestricted access to the Panama Canal for drug smuggling. Despite his impressive credentials, Miller is a man with no combat experience. He has never set foot in a jungle, let alone engaged in a life-or-death firefight. Most critically, he has never taken a human life. Now, Miller is being deployed as Beckett's new spotter, a role that demands trust and synergy. However, Miller carries a secret order. If Beckett threatens to compromise the mission, Miller is to eliminate him. Back at the U.S. military station in Panama, Beckett meets with his commanding officer, who informs him that the embassy is pleased with his recent mission, the successful elimination of the rebel leader Cabrera. However, the victory feels hollow to Beckett, as it came at the cost of Papich's life. His commander presents him with a new mission and introduces him to his new spotter, Richard Miller. Soon after, Beckett learns that Miller was once a civilian recruited by the Army shooting team, where he earned a silver Olympic medal. After retiring, Miller was recruited by the NSC and assigned to the Washington, D.C. SWAT team. Despite Miller's impressive shooting skills, Beckett is deeply concerned about his lack of jungle combat experience. The next morning, Miller boards a UH-1 helicopter, accompanied by two fellow soldiers, heading toward the military base. The flight begins uneventfully, with the men relaxing as the chopper cuts through the sky. But suddenly, their tranquility is shattered by a barrage of gunfire from guerrilla fighters armed with AK-47s. Bullets rip through the air, and chaos erupts inside the helicopter. At that moment, Miller instinctively grabs his sniper rifle, ready to return fire. However, this is his first time aiming at a living human being, and his finger freezes stiff and unresponsive. Despite his best efforts, he can't pull the trigger. Meanwhile, the door gunner, though severely wounded, manages to take down the attackers with precise shots. Miraculously, the pilot survives the ambush and, unaware of Miller's hesitation, credits him with a crucial shot that saved them. Upon arriving at the military base, Miller is greeted by a soldier who immediately tries to intimidate him. The soldier shows off a collection of dog tags belonging to Beckett's former spotters, men who were assigned to work with him and never returned alive. Additionally, the soldier makes a grim bet that Miller will meet the same fate. Just then, Beckett arrives and intervenes. He explains to Miller that the soldiers harassing him are simply envious. The life of a sniper is unconventional. They often operate in pairs or alone, unlike regular soldiers who fight in large groups. Beckett then hands Miller the uniform of the late Papich, his former spotter, and the two quickly prepare to embark on their secret mission into the Panamanian jungle. As they set out, Miller grows increasingly confused. Beckett abruptly deviates from the meticulously planned mission, opting to enter the jungle by train instead of helicopter. After a long train ride, the two continue their journey on foot, trekking through the dense, unforgiving wilderness of Panama. Along the way, they strike up a conversation about the helicopter incident. The pilot had claimed that Miller's shot was the one that took down the enemy midair. Beckett, however, remains skeptical of the story. As they delve deeper into the jungle, Miller's lack of experience becomes glaringly apparent. He struggles to keep up, and at one point he slips and falls into a river. Frustrated and drenched, Miller confronts Beckett, accusing him of deviating from the original plan. They were supposed to head east from the train drop-off point, not west, as they are now. Miller asserts that his NSC mission grants him equal authority and insists he won't blindly follow Beckett's orders. Beckett, calm but firm, explains that sticking to standard operating procedures isn't always the best course of action. He emphasizes his deep understanding of the jungle and the situation, urging Miller to trust his judgment. When they reach an abandoned European hotel deep in the jungle, Miller is suddenly ambushed from behind by a native tribesman. To his surprise, the man is one of Beckett's allies, a group of indigenous people who share the same goal of eliminating the rebel leader. At that moment, Beckett reveals his plan to help them attack their target, El Cirujano, a former CIA agent and torture expert now working with the rebels. In response, the tribesmen agree to guide Beckett and Miller through guerrilla patrols, ensuring they reach Alvarez's headquarters undetected. However, Miller once again voices his objections. He insists that taking out El Cirujano was never part of his mission. Sensing Miller's reluctance and doubting his abilities, especially after the helicopter incident, Beckett challenges him to prove his skills. He orders Miller to demonstrate his marksmanship, testing whether he's capable of handling the mission's demands. Beckett also reveals critical intelligence. General Alvarez and Raul Ochoa are scheduled to meet at the general's residence. There, they will have to take down two targets simultaneously. In the end, Beckett makes it clear if Miller can't handle the task here, he stands no chance in the mission ahead. As Beckett and Miller reach the edge of the river, they carefully observe the movements of El Cirujano's convoy. Beckett orders Miller to take the shot, emphasizing the need for a clean, one-shot kill on Cirujano while he handles the other commander. However, Miller's shot misses its mark, forcing Beckett to quickly eliminate his own target. In the chaos that follows, one of the native tribesmen is fatally shot by the rebels. This tragic turn of events shifts the attitude of the indigenous group, who decide to withdraw their support. Despite this setback, Beckett and Miller press on, though Miller narrowly avoids capture during a rebel patrol. Later, as they rest, the sudden crack of gunfire shatters the silence. The tribesmen who had withdrawn earlier have been gunned down. Beckett recognizes the distinct sound of an SVD Dragunov rifle and explains that the shots were fired by De Silva, a sniper Beckett once trained. Now, De Silva works as a mercenary for the rebels, choosing profit over loyalty. Realizing the danger, Beckett decides they will spend the night in the swamps, deeming it the safest place to rest. The next day, Beckett and Miller continue their journey toward the home of Pastor Ruiz, a local informant who has been a valuable source of intelligence for Beckett. When they arrive, however, they find Pastor Ruiz brutally murdered. Beckett is certain that El Cirujano is behind the killing, while Miller is visibly shaken and begins to question the situation. Horrified by the scene, Miller suggests they abandon the mission, arguing that Pastor Ruiz may have already divulged all his information to Alvarez, making the mission too risky. Despite having little to go on, Beckett remains resolute, determined to see the mission through. Left with no choice, Miller reluctantly agrees to continue. That night, Beckett orders Miller to rest while he takes the first watch, guarding against potential enemy attacks. Unbeknownst to Miller, Beckett uses this opportunity to lure out De Silva, the sniper who killed Papich and has been hunting them. In a tense and calculated move, Beckett succeeds in eliminating De Silva, avenging Papich's death. When Miller wakes up and learns what happened, he erupts in anger. He accuses Beckett of using him as bait, believing that the order to rest first was a calculated ploy to draw De Silva out. The following morning, Beckett and Miller finally reach General Alvarez's estate. Unexpectedly, Beckett changes the entire operational strategy, opting for an unconventional firing position that the enemy won't anticipate. He assigns Miller to target Raul Ochoa from a well-protected warehouse, while Beckett takes a far more dangerous position for his own shot. As Ochoa arrives and shakes hands with Alvarez, they have a narrow window of just 10 seconds to take both targets down simultaneously. In a grave tone, Beckett reminds Miller not to hesitate this time. After successfully infiltrating the enemy territory, Miller reached his designated sniper position inside a warehouse. Meanwhile, Beckett was not as fortunate. His planned vantage point was suddenly obstructed by a large truck. Without hesitation, he carefully crawled forward, blending seamlessly with the environment, maneuvering through the dry grass in the enemy's territory. As night fell, there was still no sign of Alvarez or Raul Ochoa, while patrol guards, accompanied by tracking dogs, began their rounds. Acting quickly, Beckett grabbed some horse manure from the ground and used it to mask his scent from the dogs. At last, the long-awaited morning arrived, and Raul Ochoa landed in a helicopter. When Beckett surveyed the surroundings, he noticed that Miller was in an extremely exposed position, vulnerable to a hostile sniper's sights. Realizing the imminent danger, Beckett swiftly took action, eliminating the enemy sniper before he could fire. At the same time, Miller had already set his sights on Raul Ochoa and Alvarez, mentally counting down to the perfect moment to take a shot. Without wasting a second, Miller initiated his attack from the warehouse. Beckett, armed only with a knife, successfully neutralized the enemy sniper, saving Miller from certain death. However, his actions did not go unnoticed. El Cirujano and the guards quickly became aware of his presence. As gunfire erupted, Beckett was forced to flee toward the forest, throwing explosives behind him, igniting the tall grass to cover his escape. During the chaos, Miller was overwhelmed with anxiety, replaying the events in his mind. Not long after, he reunited with Beckett, but instead of relief, anger took over. Miller was furious that Beckett had prioritized taking out the enemy sniper instead of eliminating Alvarez when he had the chance. During their heated exchange, Beckett finally revealed his reasoning. He had acted to protect Miller from being shot by the enemy marksman. However, before they could settle their differences, Beckett proposed another mission that night, as 2 more targets remained. Conflicted and uncertain, Miller suddenly attempted to eliminate Beckett. Before he could go through with it, Alvarez's men arrived unexpectedly, forcing Miller to flee in a panic. Beckett, now wounded with a gunshot to his left arm, sought refuge in the swampy forest. A while later, Beckett stumbled upon a seemingly innocuous plaque hanging from a tree. However, he quickly realized it was a trap set by Miller to eliminate him. Meanwhile, in a fit of frustration and paranoia, Miller fled toward the coastline. Haunted by the chaos surrounding him, he recklessly fired his sniper rifle at imaginary targets until his ammunition was completely depleted. When the last bullet was gone, he found himself trapped in an emotional breakdown, overwhelmed by hallucinations and despair. Some time later, Beckett approached Miller, who appeared to have given up entirely. In desperation, Miller begged Beckett to eliminate him, knowing he was defenseless and broken after taking Alvarez's life. However, Beckett simply told him that what he was experiencing now was not necessarily the worst that could happen. Soon after, Beckett urged Miller to escape immediately, as Alvarez's forces were closing in on them. To ensure Miller could get away safely, Beckett provided cover fire, drawing enemy attention to himself. Outnumbered and knowing he had no chance of winning the fight, Beckett made a quiet decision. He surrendered to the rebels. As he was taken into custody, he calmly removed a bullet from his rifle chamber, held it up, and let it fall to the ground. That night, Beckett endured unbearable suffering as El Cirujano brutally tortured him. His right index finger, the very one he relied on to pull the sniper trigger, was tightly bound with kite string before being severed. At that moment, El Cirujano relentlessly pressured Beckett to reveal his mission and identity. Meanwhile, Miller moved through the shadows, carrying the sniper rifle loaded with the single bullet Beckett had discreetly dropped before his capture. Instead of following the evacuation plan via a UH-1 helicopter, Miller chose to infiltrate the enemy headquarters. As he stealthily navigated the base, Miller spotted General Alvarez relaxing, unaware of the danger approaching him. Wasting no time, Miller swiftly closed in and in one decisive motion, plunged his knife into the general, killing him instantly. Not far away, Beckett, aware of Miller's presence, saw an opportunity to test his comrade's marksmanship with a clever tactic. Beckett started speaking, drawing El Cirujano's attention, making him lean in, providing Miller with a perfect shot. Beckett instructed Miller to eliminate them both with a single bullet, but Miller remained steadfast in his principle. One shot, one life. Using the bullet provided by Beckett, Miller landed a precise headshot on El Cirujano. Without hesitation, he rushed to free Beckett, and the two made a run for the helicopter. Despite his injury, Beckett, now using his left index finger, grabbed El Cirujano's pistol and took down an enemy ambusher, once again saving Miller's life. Together, they successfully escaped. After completing his mission to eliminate the rebel leaders in the Panamanian jungle, Beckett did not receive a promotion or a comfortable life. Instead, he was discharged from his unit due to medical reasons. As a consequence of the mission, he lost his index finger, his eyesight had begun to deteriorate with age, and he carried lasting trauma from losing several scout comrades in previous operations. Now 50 years old, Beckett lived his days as a shooting instructor, teaching the children of the wealthy how to use a sniper rifle by hunting deer. However, he often found them arrogant and dismissive, which frustrated him to the point of resigning from the job. Upon returning home one evening, he was approached by two strangers, government officials seeking his expertise. They had been impressed by Beckett's recent victory in a shooting competition, where he outperformed 7 SWAT officers and an entire Marine sniper team. Colonel McKenna and CIA agent James Lyles presented Beckett with an extremely dangerous mission to assassinate General Valstoria, the mastermind behind the ethnic massacre of Muslims in Serbia. Initially, Beckett welcomed the mission, understanding its significance. However, he quickly felt disillusioned, recalling how he had been unceremoniously discharged from his unit. At that moment, James persistently tried to persuade Beckett, arguing that only he possessed the skills necessary to complete the mission. At one moment, Beckett inquired about the reward for his service, to which James assured him that McKenna would grant anything he requested. Realizing this was likely a no-return mission and feeling weary of his monotonous existence, Beckett finally agreed under one condition. If he died during the mission, his rank as Master Gunnery Sergeant had to be reinstated. As it turns out, he wanted to die as a true Marine. The following day at the U.S. Embassy in Berlin, Beckett was introduced to a death row inmate named Cole, one of the Army's finest snipers, who had completed numerous high-risk missions. Now, Cole was serving time for shooting a federal officer who had betrayed their unit, leaving Cole's best friend to die alone in an alley. Cole was assigned as Beckett's scout assistant and was offered a pardon if he participated in the mission and successfully eliminated the target. However, if Cole failed or attempted to escape, his death sentence would still be carried out. Still unsure about Cole, Beckett questioned him. After a brief exchange, Beckett and Cole departed for Serbia to begin their mission. Upon arriving in Serbia, Beckett and Cole made their way to a church to meet Sofia, a beautiful informant and member of the separatist group fighting for the rights of the Muslim ethnic minority. Inside the church, Beckett instructed Cole to remove his skullcap. There, Sophia handed Beckett a file containing the target's photo and the optimal sniping location from a window with a clear line of sight. Afterward, she invited them to her apartment for a short rest. While retrieving the sniper rifle she had hidden there, Sophia provided crucial intelligence on Valstoria. Every morning at precisely 7:30 a.m., Valstoria arrived at his office. The shooting location was approximately 300 meters away, and the city's narrow streets made escaping difficult. As a result, she warned that the moment the shot was fired, chaos would erupt. Despite this, Sophia assured them she would be waiting at the church, ready to assist their escape through its underground tunnels. Throughout the day and into the night, Beckett and Cole meticulously prepared, calculating wind speed, shooting angles, and all other factors that could impact their success. Finally, the moment arrived. At exactly 7:30 a.m., Valstoria appeared in a black Mercedes, flanked by heavy security. Cole, responsible for reading the wind conditions and tracking the target, was poised to detonate a distraction charge set in a nearby building, signaling Beckett to take the shot. Suddenly, Beckett's vision blurred, causing Cole to hesitate. When Cole asked if something was wrong, Beckett concealed his problem. Moments later, Beckett's sight cleared, and he successfully neutralized the target. As pandemonium ensued, the city went into lockdown, forcing them to execute their escape plan immediately. After exiting the building, Beckett and Cole rushed toward their extraction point, a church built atop ancient Roman catacombs. However, upon arrival, they saw guards conducting strict inspections around the church. Sophia subtly shook her head, her worried expression signaling to Beckett that the extraction point was compromised. Thinking quickly, Beckett and Cole adjusted their plan and sought an alternative escape route. They decided to use the city's tram system, but their journey did not go smoothly. As the two traveled along the tram line, they were suddenly confronted by heavily armed patrol officers. Without hesitation, Beckett and Cole swiftly neutralized the threat and pressed forward. After disembarking, they found themselves still pursued by authorities. In the midst of the chase, Cole suddenly veered off the planned route, ignoring Beckett's orders to stay together, and ran into the open. This reckless move led to Cole being captured by Valstoria's men. Meanwhile, at a U.S. military base, James received word that Beckett and Cole had not yet reached the extraction zone. However, James remained indifferent, stating that it was of no concern to him. In his view, the mission had already been a success. The only thing that mattered was that Valstoria was dead. After Cole was captured, he was taken to a secret underground prison used specifically to detain Valstoria's enemies. Prisoners that were often subjected to brutal torture in an attempt to extract information about who had given them orders. That night, Beckett went to Sophia's home, seeking her help in rescuing Cole from captivity. Sophia, already aware of the situation, immediately led Beckett to a hidden underground armory, an old weapons storage facility dating back to World War II. At that moment, Sophia revealed that she was a descendant of Serbian freedom fighters. Her father had once fought against the communists, while her grandfather had taken part in the resistance against the Nazis during the war. Inside the armory, Sophia handed Beckett an antique German sniper rifle, a relic from the war, along with a precision scope. Shortly after, Sophia's two older brothers, Vojislav and Zoran, arrived. Both were also active members of the Serbian independence movement. They informed Beckett that the American prisoner, including Cole, was scheduled to be transferred to Posarivac prison, where they would be executed alongside several political detainees. Determined not to let this happen, Beckett and the group quickly devised a rescue plan. The next morning, as Cole was being transported to Posarivac prison for execution, he whispered to a fellow prisoner beside him. As the military convoy escorting the prisoners approached an intersection, they were suddenly ambushed by a van driven by Vojislav, while Zoran positioned himself in another vehicle, ready to strike. Meanwhile, Beckett lay hidden among the trees, his rifle aimed at the enemy. As soon as the explosive device planted in the van detonated, Beckett and his team launched their attack, taking down the guards and creating an opening for Cole and another prisoner to escape in Zoran's getaway vehicle. Inside the car, Beckett was caught off guard upon discovering an additional prisoner alongside Cole. It was then revealed that this was part of a premeditated plan by Cole and Sophia. Cole had deliberately allowed himself to be captured to free Pavel. Pavel was a writer known for his outspoken criticism of the Serbian regime, using his books to expose the government's atrocities. Because of his defiance, he had been imprisoned. Meanwhile, at the American military base, Colonel McKenna received intelligence that Beckett was still alive and had successfully rescued Cole. Without hesitation, McKenna ordered a helicopter extraction for them. Soon after, Beckett and his team made their way to an abandoned factory, the designated extraction point for McKenna's helicopter. However, upon arrival, they were shocked to find a tank lying in wait, ready to ambush them. Realizing they had no other choice, they decided to escape through the underground sewer system. In a final act of sacrifice, Vojislav and Zoran stayed behind to create a diversion, allowing Beckett and the others to flee safely. After escaping through the underground sewer system, Beckett used his scope to detect a sniper tracking their movements. With their pursuer identified, they continued their flight through the dense forests outside the city. Along the way, Beckett made the difficult decision to part ways with Sophia for their mutual safety. Cole then led them to Kamra, a Muslim village where his old friend, Nazad, resided. Upon arriving in Kamra, Nazad welcomed them warmly, offering coffee and food to celebrate their arrival. However, Beckett and Cole remained wary of Nazad's overly friendly demeanor, suspecting it could be a trap. After a brief rest, they resumed their journey by bus, heading toward Kisvki, a town near the border. Moments later, their trip was abruptly interrupted when the bus approached a bridge and was stopped for a security inspection. Sensing danger, the trio discreetly slipped away and continued on foot to their second extraction point in Simon. However, when they arrived, they were met with devastation, a town reduced to ruins, bearing the grim signs of a massacre. Beckett grew increasingly suspicious of Nazad, fearing he may have betrayed them to the Serbian army, leading them into an ambush. Their fears were soon confirmed when a Serbian military helicopter appeared overhead. Unbeknownst to them, the infamous Serbian sniper, known as Scar Sniper, had already infiltrated the town and set numerous traps in the underground sewer system. Meanwhile, in the outskirts of the forest, Beckett spotted elite Serbian forces closing in on their position. With no other choice, Cole charged forward to engage the advancing troops. After successfully neutralizing the enemy soldiers, Beckett urged Cole and Pavel to hurry toward Simon, as their helicopter extraction was scheduled to arrive in just 30 minutes. In Simon, Scar Sniper, who had been waiting in ambush, was momentarily fooled when Beckett and his team disguised themselves in Serbian military uniforms taken from fallen soldiers. They used this deception to slip into the underground sewer system in search of a safe hiding spot. However, they were unaware that Scar Sniper had already rigged the area with deadly traps. As they moved cautiously, Cole unknowingly triggered one of the traps, exposing their location. Realizing they had been compromised, Beckett ordered Cole to escort Pavel to the extraction point while he stayed behind to cover their escape. Using his sniper rifle, Beckett targeted a fuel drum, causing an explosion to create a diversion. What followed was an intense sniper duel. Scar Sniper moved swiftly between positions, making it nearly impossible for Beckett to locate him. Just as Beckett was about to be taken out, he managed to pinpoint Scar Sniper's exact location and relayed the information to Cole. Despite nearing safety, Cole chose to turn back and assist Beckett, launching a direct assault on the Serbian sniper's position. However, Scar Sniper anticipated his move and shot Cole in the chest, sending him to the ground, gravely wounded. As he lay dying, Cole asked Beckett why he had risked his life to save him from Valstoria's men. Beckett, in a brief yet profound moment, recounted his own experience in the jungles of Panama, where he had nearly lost his life before being rescued by a fellow soldier named Miller. That act of brotherhood convinced him that, under different circumstances, Cole would have done the same for him. Drawing on his combat experience, Beckett set an ingenious trap, luring Scar Sniper into exposing his position. With one precise shot, Beckett finally eliminated him. Moments later, their extraction helicopter arrived, giving them a chance to escape. However, just as they were about to be lifted to safety, Serbian reinforcements under the command of Captain Mars arrived on the scene. In his final moments, Cole, mortally wounded, made one last sacrifice. With his last breath, he shouted the word freedom before succumbing to his injuries. The end. Moral lesson from the story: if you ever find yourself in enemy territory, remember, horse manure might save your life, but it won't save your dignity. Also, if your sniper buddy keeps almost getting you killed, maybe it's time to find a new hobby like fishing.